the President of the United States. It is said recently they had a policy to attack Iraq, so they made the facts fit the policy. So they manipulated intelligence to justify a criminal act, violating the international law. Listen to me good now. And then forcing nations to sign an agreement that they will never bring America before the International Criminal Court. But you don't have to worry about a nation bringing you before an International Criminal Court. You got to worry about the same God that set Babylon down, Egypt down, Sodom and Gomorrah down. That same God will set America down.
Hello everyone, welcome once again to AfriPost. I hope wherever you're watching us from, you're having a great time. Now, we have always talked about issues affecting African Americans and issues affecting black communities across the world. And one thing that we have always noticed is the fact that there are those leaders who have been very dedicated towards fighting for blacks and ensuring that black people get to achieve their desires. Now, in today's video, we are going to focus on this clip where Minister Farrakhan is speaking about the evils that United States continues to commit across the world. You know, we have always known America as the leader of the free world, and what they have always done is the fact that they want to have their policies and ideas kind of shoved down the throat of different nations. And this is something that we must say that if countries are sovereign and they have powers to decide where they want their people to be, they should be allowed that sovereignty. And therefore, the question we should be asking, why is it that United States at all times is always deciding the things that people do? In this clip, we want to listen to what Minister Farrakhan is saying, and then we shall meet at the end. Let's watch.
I want to talk to us tonight about why a millions more movement is necessary. The country in which we live, the greatest nation on the earth in the last 6,000 years, is experiencing a fall. The ancient governments and empires, Egypt, Rome, Babylon, Persia, now great America is experiencing a fall. No enemy on the outside can hurt this nation, but this nation can be hurt from within because we are suffering from a spiritual rot and a creeping decadence that is eroding marriage and family life and community life and national life. This is the American people as a whole. But black people who were brought here as slaves have never been in such a degenerate state as we are at this time. During the darkest days of slavery, we never killed each other like we are doing today. During the darkest days of slavery, when we were denied family life, our children yet were respectful of their elders. Today, there is a generational divide among us. Today, there's a male and female divide among us. Today, there's a color divide among us. Today, there's a class divide among us. Today there's a denominational and religious divide among us. And today there's an educational divide among us. And we are yet richer than we have ever been, with $750 billion coming through our hands for the last few years. And yet that money does not circulate in our community one time before it leaves. There are others providing for us our goods and services that we could have, we should have provided for ourselves. So when others can come into our community to provide us with our needs, then they take the money out of our community to build their communities while ours continues to deteriorate. There never was a time when we were so confused over what is right or what is wrong. The Quran says that Satan would make evil fair seeming to us. And every evil thing that we do, we can find justification for our sin, our immorality, whether that's a sin of omission or commission. All of us can find some justification. I'm smoking reefers. Yeah, well, God created it. I'm drunk tonight, Praise God, We have an excuse for our fornication, for our adultery, for our use of drugs, for our abuse of our women and children, and our abuse of ourselves. We have an excuse for our ignorance, for our lack of education, for even losing the desire to even want to know. And anytime 44% of the children graduating from high school are graduating functionally illiterate, and even students going to college are not reading at a college grade level and even graduate from college without becoming very proficient in reading. Something is wrong with that picture. Now, if 44% of the American children, regardless of color, are graduating from high school as functional illiterates, and America has no longer become or is no longer an industrial nation and has ceded manufacturing to third world cheap labor markets, and this is becoming a service-oriented economy. And now, even though some of you are qualified to fit in a service-oriented economy, the price for your labor is too high, so now that is being ceded to India, Indonesia, and other places in the East. So my question is, if 44% of those who graduate from high school are functionally illiterate, and all of these young men that you see on television during basketball season or during football season, very few of them, I'm speaking of the black ones now, ever graduate from their institutions. What is the future in an economy like this when the workforce and the working poor are losing jobs every day? Big companies laying off, General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, IBM, Kodak. You name the top, General Electric. You name all the top corporate entities in America, all of them are laying off. And those that have robots doing the job that we used to do, and those that are losing jobs with no training for a new job or too old for some corporate people to hire you, what will become of the future of that 44% who can't read? In my call to you, America is losing its place in the world. 26th among developed nations in education. My teacher, Elijah Muhammad, taught me that education is the torchlight of civilization. And when the torchlight goes out, the civilization begins to fall. It's not a clash of civilizations from without. This civilization is falling from within, and the torchlight of knowledge is being extinguished, and the American people are being purposely dumbed down. The American people, black, brown, red, yellow, and white, are being reduced to sheep, easily led in the wrong direction, hard to lead in the right direction. We are not being educated to be critical thinkers. We're being trained to fit into a social, economic, and political order that has no more use for us. So when you can't fit and you find nowhere to fit, you become confused. Then in the black community, it's easy to then bring drugs in. We have more salesmen for drugs than we have for Amway. What has happened to America that America can send billions of dollars to Colombia to fight the drug cartels, but the drug cartels could not move if there were not an appetite in the American people for drugs. God, in his infinite wisdom, in the creation of this body, created us to be able to handle the problems of life, so that when there's birth, mother, regardless of how painful it is, God has made you able to bear that pain and to replace that pain with joy when you see the new life that you've brought forth on this planet. And when death comes to any member of our family, even though it's horrible, it hurts, it's painful, yet God has fixed the human being so that we can grieve, sorrow, and then recover and go on with life. But today is different. Those hormones that are in our brain, those pleasure centers, are so overtaxed that pain now of being non-productive, but yet knowing that in your subconscious mind that you're somebody, but you can't prove it. Knowing that You can dream about things that make you see yourself as a great man and a great woman, but when you wake up, you have to face the reality that I have not been able to produce hardly anything in my life. That's painful. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that the greatest joy is not sex. The greatest pleasure is not sex. The greatest pleasure is having a vision and then bringing that vision from your mind into reality and watch what you envision come to life. That is pleasure that sex cannot equal. That's the pleasure of a creative mind. We don't have many people among us who have that kind of natural pleasure from visioning something and bringing what we vision into reality. The Bible says, behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Sorry, we don't have that pleasure. Those of us who went to the Million Man March, we experienced it for 14 hours and then back to business almost as usual. But the joy of men and women in unity and demonstrating love for each other, that's a pleasure greater than the pleasure derived from sex. So when you're deprived of the pleasure of a creative mind, you're deprived of the pleasure of unity, you're deprived of the pleasure of a successful marriage, you're deprived of the pleasure of a good family life and watching your children grow and become productive members of a society. We don't have that kind of pleasure. So now we turn inward, see, to find pleasure in the organs of sex. And there, Satan is causing us to use what God gave us to use in the right context. We are abusing that to give pleasure to a mind and a spirit that is filled with pain. Our relationships with each other is painful. Our women have pain in their relationship with us. But this is not just black women, brown women, red women, white women. As a woman, you are abused and misused. And you sometimes participate in your own misuse. Follow this, please. Satan is very wise to the nature of things, because the only way you can rule any object is to know it through its nature. The nature of the man, according to both the Bible and Quran, the men are maintainers of the female. And the nature of the woman is to depend on the male for maintenance, protection, and inner security. And the nature of the female is to give peace and quiet of mind and consolation and comfort to a man worthy, who is worthy of that. Now, brothers, if you had seen the sisters standing cheering, you would understand what I'm saying. See, the female by nature loves to comfort and to please. Her very form is comfort to a man's eyes. I'm going to say that again. Her very form is comfort to a man's eyes. And that's why it should be covered from the eyes of everyone but the one for whom that comfort is meant. But Satan is wise. And those of you older white people, older black people, older brown, red, or yellow, I hate to use color to describe us, but since we live in a society that is fascinated with color, I'm going to use color, but I wish, and maybe later in the lecture when we get over it, I can use something better. Look, there was a time when women covered themselves. In fact, they had so much clothes on, the man would be all messed up just waiting for her to take them off. Excuse me. There was a time when a woman's underwear was so personal that she would not put her undergarment on a clothesline for the neighbor next door to see what she wears under her clothing. Today, the scientists of evil have undressed you so that now your underwear are in plain sight and you have lost your shame as a human being to allow yourself to be exposed like that. So that men see you now not as the serious creation of God, but as a means of access to pleasure for his pain, of being a non-productive human and not knowing why he's non-productive. I just have to get some pleasure. And he has become so sick that he looks at his daughter and he cannot differentiate between his daughter and his wife. Many, many women in this room have been victimized by men. Either a father, an uncle, a grandfather, a cousin, a brother, because we are so sex driven now that when we see a young tender plant, so well developed at 10 or 11 or 12. And as a mother, your natural role is a protector of your child. And you have to work 2 jobs now because there's no man in your house except the one that you're taking care of. So you're at work and he's watching as the world turns. And you expect him to do the dishes and clean the house and cook a little something, so when you get home from work, something is going on there for you. So you see there's a complete role reversal now. And if you watch the ads on television, they use women to make mockery of the stupidity of men. Just check it out. And now, sisters, they create these sex toys where you really say, I don't need a man anymore. He ain't doing nothing for me. I can work, I can produce money for myself and for him. What the heck do I need him for? See, and when you begin to think like that, our women are not lesbians. No, they're not. But they find more comfort talking to another woman who shares their pain than hanging out with a so-called man who produces more. Now just look at what's happening to us now as men. Some of us on the down low. No. I'm not talking about anybody. I'm talking to us about a condition that we didn't create. Young men now taken off the street for little or nothing. White children mess up with the law. There's always somebody to take them in and try to steer them in a right direction. But black children put right away into the criminal justice system. Then when they go to jails, a young, tender, round backside, then these young men are gang raped. It's really not funny. And in some areas of prison, what I have read and heard is that they latch on to a man and that's like his mistress. And he's safe as long as he gives sexual favor to this particular man. So he didn't go in to become homosexual, but as a result of the experience, he's confused. And when he comes out, when he goes in, they test him to see whether he has AIDS. But when they come out, there's no test. So while he's in, being passed around, he is an unwilling guinea pig for social and medical experimentation. So when he comes out, he goes to his old girlfriend and has sex at night and gives her AIDS and then has sex with a man on the down low. So we have a community and a nation that is very, very confused. Why a millions more movement? If I were to write one word to say what the millions more movement stands for, It stands for reparation and repair of a broken people who are in need of healing. To my Christian pastors, if ever the healing power of Jesus Christ was needed, it is needed for a broken people who need to be healed, who need to be purified and cleansed from the abominable filth that has become a part of our life. We have accepted a way of life that is death itself. And if you go into any funeral parlor in any major or minor market in America, that's right, go to that funeral parlor and look and see who lies dead there. It is mostly young men from 18 to 45, and the number one killer in most of these cases is AIDS, then gunshot wounds, then suicide. And even the horror of slavery, we did not commit suicide. But today you don't realize what is happening to yourself and to your children, and sometimes we just give up on life and would rather be dead than to live another day suffering the degree of pain that we suffer. Disoriented, dysfunctional families. You're too busy, sister, to give the qualitative love that nurtures your children. That's so sad. You are the natural teacher, the natural connection of your child, bonding the child to life. Yes, sir. But you are so concerned about your form, and then you have to go to work till the baby can't nurse from your breast, which bonds the baby to you, to something human and real and tangible and warm and loving. But we are bonding the child to plastic. Take that bottle. So the baby cries more for the bottle than for you. And then instead of living things to nurture it, to have living tender feelings, you give it a monkey, you give it a doll, or you give it a dog. So the child is wedded to things and not to its own humanity. And that's why it's so easy for you, brother, when you get a gun in your hand, to smoke your brother, because you don't have no feeling for him. That's why you can kill your brother over a new set of Nikes or some bling bling, because you have been wedded from a baby to things. So we unknowingly, unwittingly have become a thing devoid of human sentiment. In Chicago the other day, there was an old man who went shopping. He was nearly 90, and he went to the shopping mall, and he came out with his bags, and he was going to his automobile, lucky to be able to drive himself home. And there was a young black brother with a gun in his hand, took his groceries, took his money, and then proceeded to beat him with his weapon. And the old man said, "But you got my money, you took the keys of my car, you got my groceries, what you beating me for?" the little boy could not answer. He just kept beating him because he has no more humanity. The Bible says in the book of Revelations that the people had the mark of the beast in their forehead and in their hands. They were no more human. That man, the BTK, murderer, was given so much publicity today. The police couldn't catch him for 31 years. He would bind them, torture them, then kill them. No humanity left. He's a beast in human form. His defense lawyer said, but he's a human being. Wrong. He had the potential to become a human being.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But he never evolved to be what he by nature was born to be. Why a millions more movement?
Yes, sir.
America the beautiful has become America the ugly. In the eyes of the world, wait, a nation that thinks more of oil
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
than human life. A nation of greed where the corporate giants want more and more and more at the expense of the people who made their corporations.
Yes, sir. That's right.
And we, who have no status in the society, want to acquire the thing that we think will give us what wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and human growth would give us. So we fight for a Cadillac, a BMW, an Escalade. Huh?
That's right.
And when you get your car, you know, you drive among the people. Yeah. Yeah. See, I've accomplished something. You got diamonds on your finger, but no jewels of knowledge in your head. You got a chest full of bling bling, but not a thing in the head. Well, maybe we should stay in school and get Asking your children to stay in school is like asking a crack addict to stay in the crack house. The schools are unfit today to educate and to nurture humanity in our children. Wait a minute, teachers. You can't teach anymore. Your methods are archaic. Your psychology is dead. And the father of Western education, Dewey and Kant and Hegel, were racists. So they have nurtured white children to think that they're better because they're white. Therefore, today they just show their whiteness, but they're not competing. Did you hear me? It is mathematics and science that builds civilization. And whoever the mathematicians are, whoever the scientists are, whoever the engineers are, they are the builders of civilization. Every other discipline is an embellishment of the civilization built by science and mathematics. And listen to me. You way down in math and science, way down. White children, sorry, way down. And the leaders in science and mathematics in America are the Asian students, those who are Pakistani, Indian, Chinese, Korean, Japanese. You can't win the spelling bee anymore. You are so inferior in terms of social studies that when they talked about Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania, huh? Where's that? But when I went to school years and years and years ago, in a segregated school, every black child in my classroom knew how to read. When I got out of the 3rd grade, I could read books with big words because I was taught how to sound it out. Now you have to pay for that, hooked on phonics. But when we were growing up, phonics was the way you taught children to read. What happened? Who changed that and why? So if the Asian students are the ones proficient in science and mathematics, they will become the new builders of the civilization, and the whites, the blacks, and the Hispanics will have to take lessons from them. Well, it's okay, but this didn't have to be. See, when you think that you're favored because you're white and you're now in competition with an Asian and he beats you, how do you handle that? When you think that because you're white, you should be the best golfer,
Teach.
and then Vijay Singh and Tiger Woods keep whipping you, and Tiger's Cablinasian, and VJ is black, but he's Indian. How do you handle that being a poison with the idea of white supremacy? There was a time when white children could play violin and nobody could compete with them. Now, the Chinese, the Koreans, look like they're born with the violin. How do you handle that being a white person? See, it makes you sick. When whiteness is no longer the badge of superiority, now you have to produce, and if you're not able to produce and are bankrupt
Teach.
in ideas,
Yes, sir.
then your world is falling apart and you're in so much pain. You too trying to find some pleasure. And so you find pleasure in shock and awe, just dropping bombs on people. That's a hell of a way to find pleasure. I saw one of the generals, when they were dropping bombs on Afghanistan, they said jokingly, there are no more targets to bomb. Well, nothing there in the beginning. They have been fighting for 20 years. So you go over with your mighty force and bomb them back into the Stone Age, huh? See? And this is your government. The President of the United States. It is said recently they had a policy to attack Iraq, so they made the facts fit the policy. So they manipulated intelligence to justify a criminal act violating the international law, listen to me good now, and then forcing nations to sign an agreement that they will never bring America before the International Criminal Court. But you don't have to worry about a nation bringing you before an international criminal court. You got to worry about the same God that set Babylon down, Egypt down, Sodom and Gomorrah down. That same God will set America down. Corporations have bought up the newspapers. Corporations have bought up television. Corporations have bought up radio. There was a time when black radio stations had talk radio that could disseminate ideas that instill consciousness into the black community. Now the program directors are saying it's music and more music and music and more music, and talk shows are gradually being wiped away. So you are being dumbed down now. So from early in the morning to latest night, let's get the boogie on, see? Now it's how well you can shake the bootylicious. I saw on TV, I was turning the dial the other day, and when I turned, I think it was to BET, it happened. There was a sister on there, and that child was shaking herself and making her gluteus maximus do things that I had never seen done before. So like Dagwood Bumstead, I could not turn that dial. But is this where we're becoming proficient? At butt shaking? Your little daughter's standing in front of the TV, watching a young lady with a thong on, shaking herself, thinking that that's okay because it must be, it's on TV. Reverend, you may teach them on Sunday, Imam. We have our congregational prayer on Friday. The Jewish people have their Sabbath on Saturday, or from Friday night sundown. But then what happens for the rest of the week? Who's got the children when you stop preaching and I stop preaching? Then my brothers who are hip-hop artists, they got them the rest of the time. Now, there was a time when rap was conscious. And then conscious rap moved off the table and gangster rap came on. See? Now you take pride at being a gangster, having your gun, smoking your brother, calling your women out of their names. And the record company will not say that is not permissible. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful, but I was trying to show black people that because you think you have some status, you think you have arrived, you think you have some money, you think you have position, but when you get out of line, the dominant community and the racists among them will let you know that if your people are not up, you can't be up. So, in the current edition of the Final Call, I wrote an appeal to everybody that would be a part of the Millions More movement And when I say millions more, you know we had nearly 2 million men at the Million Man March. The sisters had nearly 2 million women at the Million Woman March. The Million Youth March had a few 100,000. The Million Family March had a little over 1 million.
Yes,
the Million Workers, the Million Moms, the Million this. So when I say we need a millions more, because Howard Dean, who is over the Democratic National Committee, said that we must take America back. He didn't say from whom. But there's a group that is called the neoconservatives that are directing the movement of this nation. And President George W. Bush is like a man that was in search of an idea that would define him and define his life and his presidency. And the imperial America idea of the neoconservatives seemed to fit him emotionally and spiritually. And he is wedded now to that concept, that idea. So through him, the neoconservatives, who've been around a long time, but they never had a president. They tried to make Clinton their boy, but he was, smart. The attack on Iraq has caused now the American taxpayer to lose $300 billion. And the Patriot Act is robbing us of civil liberties. And America quietly is becoming a fascist state. Wait. When the President of the United States can fix a policy and then fix facts to fit the policy rather than the policy fit the true facts, and say something false to the American people like Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, then you commit the United States Armed Forces in the name of September the 11th to a failed, errant policy. 1,800 and more American lives lost, and thousands more in the hospitals, all but destroyed, their limbs gone, their faces a horrible mess. Go to Walter Reed Hospital and look at the patriotic young men and women who are victims of errant foreign policy.
Yes, sir.
And face the truth, America. You have been lied to. So for the first time, black leaders, all of us, civil rights leaders, Pan-Africanists, nationalists, socialists, revolutionaries, all of us came into one room because the condition of our people is so grave. We decided we have our differences, but our differences are not more important than saving a people that are dying. So that very movement now, called the Millions More Movement, has the leadership of the Million Man March, the leadership of the Million Woman March, the leadership of the Million Youth March, the leadership of the Million Workers March. All of them have come together now. So we call it a Millions More Movement. It's not a march. Because a march, you go there and you make your statement and it's over. But that can't be the way we function. We have to create a movement with goals and objectives and a plan and a programmatic thrust that will deliver our people.
Yes, sir.
Listen now. We're asking the members of the Latino community to join us. Now wait, black brothers and sisters, don't you become so negative.
Come on.
Well, you know what I mean? We suffering so much. How in the world you know what I mean? Find some unity with some other people when we need so much. See, that's your problem. America is strong enough to defeat any nation by herself. But she wasn't going into Iraq until she had a coalition of the willing. She can't fight no war by herself anymore. She wants to attack Iran, but Mr. Schroeder of Germany already told her, take the military option off the table because we're not giving you no troops to go into Iran. Now look, man, they're going crazy up at the top, but they're going to take you. To hell with them unless a millions more movement rises from among the people. See, if the Constitution says we the people, then who is we the people? Is it we the rich white landowners who are male?
Great.
Then define it then for us.
Right.
If that's what it means, then let the rich white landowners who are male go to Iraq and bail you behind out.
Great. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Swing your sword, Neil.
Now, if it don't mean that, if it means just for white people, well, y'all got yourself into this. Y'all work it out.
Yes.
If that's what you mean.
Right.
But if you mean all of us whom you say are citizens,
Yeah.
black, brown, red, yellow, and white, is we the people,
Right.
and something is wrong with the picture, because corporate America spends over $1 billion a year lobbying Congress for laws that are not necessarily in the interest of we the people.
Right. Yes, sir.
So we the people must rise.
Yes, sir.
Since it's supposed to be a government of, by, and for the people, then why won't you discuss your foreign policy with the people?
Yes, sir.
The people don't know why the whole world hates America.
Good.
Do you think people just hate for nothing?
Teach.
What has America done?
Right.
That sick answer that the administration gives, they hate us because we're free. That is so stupid. See, what you don't know is what's hurting you. Because foreign policy is never discussed with the people. There's no town hall meetings where foreign policy is discussed so the American people can have a voice in how foreign policy is carried out. That's a secret thing. I read in the newspaper that the government of the United States wants to put up more nuclear energy facilities so that they will be less dependent on oil. Have you read that somewhere? I read in the newspaper today that China wants to put up more nuclear facilities so they too won't be dependent on oil. Iran says, we would like to continue to develop our nuclear program for peaceful purposes. Now, America, England, Europe, y'all know you can monitor that. Why You want nuclear facilities for peaceful purposes and would deny that to Iran. Well, we don't trust them. No, 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 no. See, you are like Cain in the Bible.
Come on now.
See, Cain slew his brother Abel,
Yeah.
and he knew that Abel's blood was crying out from the earth for justice.
Yes, sir.
So if you study the scripture, Cain says, everyone that sees me will slay me. See, when you got a guilty conscience because of the evil that you have set in motion all over the world, you want nobody that you've done evil to develop a weapon that you think can give you some difficulty. This is why many white people feel frightened when they see black people trying to come together, because in their minds they believe that if we ever united, we're going to do to them what they did to us. You don't know us. Some of us may be like that. But the majority of us are not like that. Because the majority of us are so God-fearing, we understand from the scripture that all things work for good for those who love the Lord. So we take slavery as preparation for God's great blessing that he's going to give to us. You couldn't have put us in slavery unless God permitted it.
Right. Say that now.
So our problem is not with white people. Our problem should be with God. See, you ain't got that kind of courage. I sat down with a few Jewish rabbis that had dinner at my home.
Yes, sir.
And I said to the rabbis, you talk too much about Hitler and too little about God. And we talk too much about white people and too little about God. I said, if you are the people of God and have a covenant relationship with God, then why haven't you addressed God to ask him, why did he permit Hitler to kill so many of you? And he looked at me and said, that's a very theological question, and no, serious.
That's right, very serious.
We're not going to entertain that. I said, but we talk so much about what white people did, but could they have done it if God didn't permit it? Then a God-fearing person would ask God, why did you permit us to suffer the worst form of human slavery that has ever been perpetrated against any human being? Why did you permit us to be turned inside out, to be robbed of our names, our language, our culture, our religion, our God, our history, and robbed even of the essence of our humanity? Why did you allow that? And he could answer you easily. In the 9th chapter of John,
Yes.
when the disciples saw a child that was born blind, they asked Jesus, who did sin that this man is born blind? And did his mother sin? Did his father sin? Did he sin? And Jesus answered, no, neither his mother nor his father, nor did he sin. But he is born blind, that the works of God may be manifest in him. Wait. God allowed us to be put in a condition by them that only he could heal. So in the 37th chapter of Ezekiel, come on now, when it talks about those dry bones in the valley, and a man came and spoke to the bones, and the bones shook, and the bones rattled and the bones moved, but they never came together. So that man, called the Son of Man, went back to his sender and said, Lord, I have spoken to the bones. They have shook, they have moved, but they have not stood up.
Come on now.
And the Lord said, go and prophesy unto the winds, and let the winds blow on these bones. And when the winds blew on the bones, the book said the bones stood up, an exceedingly great army. Listen, listen. And then the scripture says, when I have delivered them from their grave, then shall they know that I, the Lord, am God, and beside me there is no Savior. So your condition is so bad. America does not know what to do with you. Listen. The social scientists can't help you. The psychologists can't help you. The psychiatrists can't help you. Preacher, we've been preaching a long time, but the bones are still dry and disconnected in the valley. We got churches on every corner. We got preachers of Islam, preachers of Christianity, preachers of Buddhism, preachers of socialism, preachers of communism, preachers of Black Panther Party, Black Power. But the condition is such that it takes the intervention of God himself to restore us. Listen, for years, decades, and centuries, leaders have arisen among us to try to make us a united people. But Willie Lynch, a Caribbean plantation owner, developed a set of protocols that would ensure, if followed by generations of white people, that black people, wherever we were found on the planet, would never be able to unite. I wrote an article in the present edition of the Final Call. I want you to get it and study it. And then I put in it the Willie Lynch letter. Now, the word lynching came from Willie Lynch. This man was so smart. Listen to the set of protocols that he developed to keep you, or to make you like you are. And this is from a letter that he wrote and a speech that he made in 1712, almost 300 years ago. And he didn't live 100 years, but evidently he had people that believed in keeping you as you are. So 300 years later, you're still in the same shape. Now watch this. He said, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. And if you use it, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. He says, my method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it, and evidently they have. He said, I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and I make them bigger. The first difference I'm going to outline is age. Put the young against the old against the young. He said, that's not my first method. but I use age because it starts with A. He said, but my second is color. Now look at this. See, the slave master he understood Jacob's history.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he grafted us. Look at this, brother. He said, I'm going to put a little bit of white blood in a black, excuse the expression, slave. Now, when a white man puts a little of himself in a black woman, I'm not talking about black now as a general color for people of color. I'm talking about the black slave that came out of Africa. We put a little touch of white sperm in a black woman, and you get somebody that's kind of brown. He said, then you put a little more in that brown till you make a child a little lighter. And then you keep doing that, till you get to the octoroon, all the way out where they're almost white but not quite. And then you put all of them against each other. Is it working? Look at this. Look at this. He said, use intelligence to divide them. Some have not. Use size. Short, tall, fat, skinny. Use sex. Male, female. Now it's just not only male and female, it's male, female, homosexual, straight, gay, lesbian. All of these sexual preferences are used now to divide. Check it out. Look at this. The size of the plantation that they come from. My plantation bigger than yours. Or the size of your church. Or the size of your mosque. Or the size of whatever it is you measuring. The status on the plantation. Let's use that to divide them. Some of us got status in Indianapolis. Some of us have none. Use status in the church to divide, in the mosque to divide. Some that you call out to lead, others have to follow. Put them against each other. Status in labor, put labor against each other. Management against labor and management against management. Just keep on dividing. Then the attitude of the owners toward the slave. Then whether the slaves live in the valley. See? Black Bottom, Detroit. Well, I don't live there. I live up on the hill. See? In New York, Sugar Hill, where a certain class lived. And then those of us that lived in Harlem, you know what I mean? You are less than what you should be. Then look at this. He says, east, west, north, south. Now you got the rappers from the east against the rappers from the west. Just look at yourself. Then he says, hair, fine hair, coarse hair, no hair, get a weave or don't have one. No, he didn't say that. Then he says, distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. And there are three things that he's going to use to control the slave. Distrust, envy, and fear. And look at you now. Look how long I've been preaching, 50 years. Some of you wouldn't even be seen in the room with me. though I have not done anything ugly against white or black.
That's right. That's right.
But fear of loss of some position, I can't be identified with Farrakhan. No, look at this. Look at this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So fear controls black life.
Yeah.
You rise up in politics. You rise up in economics. You rise up in wealth. Now you're afraid that somebody's going to take it from you, so you got to walk a certain line.
That's right.
Muammar Gaddafi loaned the Nation of Islam $5 million to make personal care products.
Yes,
we put it in a black bank
Go ahead. Go ahead.
at less interest than I would have got at a white bank. And I went to one of our big personal care manufacturers to sit down with his chemists to come up with formula for our products. He accepted it 100%.
Yes, sir.
But then he got a call from his distributors, and they told him, if you do anything for Farrakhan, we'll pull all your products off the shelf. So he called me and said, Farrakhan, I'm so sorry. I can't make your products. He was also the chairman of the board of the biggest black bank in Chicago. And he and the bank president came to my little humble office and asked me if I would be so kind as to take the $5 million out of their bank. You didn't hear me, did you? See? Fear controls. Then you don't trust nobody black. You were made, and Willie Lynn says, make them to trust us and love us and respect us and only us. Don't you make them to trust nobody among themselves. And that's why the media, see, I got to talk to the media. When they saw all those black men on Washington Mall with the dollar bills in their hand, they made our people think that Farrakhan was getting over on black people. And this is how they do leaders.
Yes, sir.
They tell your people what kind of car you drive, what kind of suit you wear, what kind of house you live in, like somebody robbing you. And then you say, yeah. I didn't think of that, master, till you brought that up. See, wait now, wait, listen. But somebody who sings for you
Teach.
can have 10 cars in the driveway,
Yeah. And brag about it.
a $10 million house, all kind of clothes and servants. Don't talk about them. Because after all, they sing for me. Sing me one of the songs of Zion. Make me laugh. That's in the Bible. Dance for me. I'll make you rich just being a dancer. I'll make you rich just being a singer. I'll make you rich throwing a ball in a hoop. And they train dogs, and they can stand at the free throw line and don't miss with their nose. But I'm going to give you money to play ball. I'm going to give you money to box. I'm going to give you money to play football. And I really don't care how you spend it, but a leader, somebody that's on the firing line for you.
Yes, sir.
See that Farrakhan? Got on gators.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
He got on looked like a tailor-made suit.
Nothing off the rack.
Live in a fine home. He robbing the people. See? Ain't no singer of songs sacrifice their life for you.
Right.
But you mean to tell me that if I live, I should be a poor man?
Come on now.
How could I track you
Right.
to something better? I'm not a pimp.
No, sir.
I'm not a thief.
No, sir.
I'm not a liar.
Go ahead.
But I live in a good home
Right.
to show you you don't have to pimp, you don't have to whore, you don't have to cheat, you don't have to lie to live well if you live in the way of God.
Good. Teach us. Teach us tonight. Yes, sir. Teach us. Bring that story. All right. Teach us.
Now, the truth of the matter is, I'm almost finished. The truth of the matter is, it's working right now. And then, the cardinal principle for making a Negro. Oh, Lord, have mercy. They have to be masters of human nature in order to reverse it. Remember what I said earlier? That the Quran says men are the maintainers of women. The Bible says the same. But look at the reversal. Women now maintain us. But check this out. This was a design of Willie Lynch and the slave masters, how to take the man out of his natural role, put the woman in the man's role, and stop her from ever depending on us. Look at how they did this. I'm only going to touch this, but you can get the paper and just study it. He said, you break, excuse the expression now, but this is the way he wrote it. You break the male like you break a horse. He said, you got to watch the woman and study her to see if she will be willingly submissive to you. Talking about the slave master now. See, you the woman. The reason you call this your backside booty is because in war, when the male member of the tribe or nation is conquered, the female is part of the booty of the conqueror. I want you to hear me now.
Now, from that clip, we're able to see how Minister Louis Farrakhan has effectively exposed the hypocrisy within American systems. They have always fashioned themselves as the people who have solutions to every problem that is facing the world. And I think it has come a time when the world must wake up and expose this level of hypocrisy. Do they really have democracy? And that is why I think we must all come together and understand the currency that United States has been using over time. Now, why is it that United States always wants to be referred to as the leader of the free world? Why is it that everywhere you find United States trying to impose their ideals to people? Here's what I found out. America's aspiration to lead the free world is rooted in a complex interplay of historical, ideological, and strategic factors. The first one is historical legacy. The United States emerged from World War II as a global superpower, filling the power vacuum left by the decline of European empires. This position, coupled with the spread of American values and ideals, solidified the nation's role as a beacon of freedom and democracy. The second one is the ideological foundation. The core principle enshrined in the American Declaration of Independence and Constitution are equality, liberty, and individual rights, which resonates with people worldwide. Promoting these values abroad aligns with the nation's self-image as a moral force in global affairs. So United States has found it fit to really have their nation kind of pushing the ideological ideals to people. And I think this is something that we cannot just come out and talk about without really calling them out, because how on earth could democracy in one place mean democracy in another place? How is it that they want to really be the leader of democracy in the whole world, yet the leading structures of all different parts of the world does not really align with democracy for itself? Some people love to be in monarchs, and democracy cannot be a thing to be used to judge them. So that is a very serious issue that must be looked into. Economic power. The United States boasts the world's largest economy, granting it immense influence in international trade and finance. This economic might enables the nation to shape global economic policies and support allies through foreign aid and investment. The United States also possesses the most powerful military in the world, capable of projecting force across the globe. This military dominance underpins its ability to deter aggression, protect allies, and intervene in conflicts to uphold international order. So from the little reading that we have done, we are finding out that America has really fashioned itself as the global moral policeman. They want to really dictate to us everything that we can do, and everything that is right should be defined according to them and in their own terms. And for me, I think this is something that we must call out. America cannot really come and tell us that they are the moral supervisors of the whole world. They have their weaknesses, and there are certain ideals that they are trying to push across that do not resonate well with everybody. So that is really an issue that I think I have to talk about when it comes to United States and its role across the world. They have decided to really look at Africa and other parts of the world as their pawns in this game. And we must really be serious and fight against American dominance whenever it is. We saw the other day President Trump kind of pushing a warning towards people who are kind of thinking of de-dollarizing. For example, he singled out BRICS and said that if anybody tries to really de-dollarize, then let them forget about the support from America. I think African nations are really looking at what is going on, and they will give it a proper response when Trump officially takes over and comes into office. Tell me down in the comment section what you think about this. And if you're watching us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.